And then we move on to the next tier of wide receivers. And ultimately, some guys worth like 15 to 20% fab, in my opinion, mostly made up of some exciting rookies that are ascending in their usage or likely going to do so given recent moves around them. I still can't believe Keon Coleman is just 42% rostered. Amari Cooper arrived. He must be dead, right? 2 highest scoring fantasy days of the season so far, 16.5 and then 18 PPR fantasy points. The wide receiver 12 and 15 in back-to-back games. And he has seen Keon Coleman 23% and 23% target share, leading the team, as well as a team high 32% and 40% air yard share here. Ultimately hauled in 5 of his 7 targets for 70 yards and a score. And only Khalil Shakir, I should correct that, did see more targets this past week, but we did have Coleman leading the team the week before. He also has led the team in back-to-back weeks in route share as well. So Keon Coleman, exciting rookie that's coming into his own. Everyone seems to hate him, but he has 2.1 yards per route run. He's ultimately dominating the contested catches like a lot of people expected. Oh, it was a fluke. He broke a tackle and ran in for. That's what he does. He's a big play, good after the catch, strong with the ball in his hands. And then people try to discredit him for doing what he does best, why he got drafted. I love Keon Coleman. I think a lot of people unfairly hate on this guy, and I definitely think he's worth about a 20%, 25% bid. I know Amari Cooper, his role is going to continue to evolve, but Keon Coleman seems to be holding down the fort here regardless. Got to bring up Jalen McMillan, one of the biggest ads of the week. Again, is he out there in your league? Probably not, right? But ultimately, he might get dropped this week after a discouraging ultimate stat line, but there's a lot of underlying usage that both is positive and negative. Let's talk about it real quick. Positively, McMillan paced the team by a good stretch here with 90% route share. Annoyingly, though, did not play a lot of the Chris Godwin role. As we know, we wanted that slot role. We had Jalen McMillan, a 67% player in college out of the slot, dominated with 2.4 yards per route run out of the slot, was phenomenal in that role. Seemed like he'd be a natural fill-in for that situation. 61% of those slot snaps vacated when Chris Godwin leaves, and Sterling Shepard plays 61% of the slot snaps, where McMillan barely mixing in there, mostly locked into that outside role. Still had 5 catches, still had a nice rushing production there. Ultimately got to about 9 PPR fantasy points. A decent day for McMillan, but definitely not the potential ceiling we thought with the Cooper Kupp-inspired Godwin-style slot role. Wasn't McMillan's here. But I do think there's still upside that could be within his range of possibilities within the next few weeks. Once Mike Evans comes back after the Week 11 bye, for example, maybe that gives them enough ammunition to kick McMillan outside, to kick Sterling Shepard, who was useless this past game, to the curb. So I do think there's still some upside with McMillan, whether you have him in your lineup or just more of a stash for right now. Probably depends on your needs. Do think he's much more of a stash than absolute production. Got to toss him in here. But hey, we're talking about Baker, who just threw for another 270 plus, another 3-touchdown day. He is absolutely cooking on this season. Still the quarterback 2 in fantasy. Looked no worse for the wear without his 2 best weapons removed from the lineup. And Baker continues to bake, continues to shred. And ultimately, Liam Cohen, I think, deserves a lot of the credit. The OC here, another smashing points performance. They have now put up 26 or more total points as a unit in 6 of 8 games so far this year. I love what Liam Cohen is doing with that team. The last 2 rookies I wanted to shout out here are, first, Xavier Legette, 15% rostered. So the other guys might be out there off the waiver wire for you, but I do think Xavier Legette likely dropped in your league. Deontay Johnson did just get traded to the Ravens a few hours before this show. It was kind of seeming like a lock. At least we now know it is officially on the books. And we have Legette yet again scoring a touchdown. He has now scored in 3 of his 5 starts at the NFL level. What better than having Xavier Legette in the pony celebration in your lineup to mock your opponent with? He is clearly a proven touchdown scorer so far this year. It goes back to his college days, especially his senior year, a big body. He was a touchdown machine there at South Carolina. And now the 32nd overall pick, a first-round pedigree, could very easily be stepping into the number 1 role here. Had a 20.6% target share, led the team with that, 13.4 PPR fantasy points, coming against the Broncos, a very good defense, and coming with Bryce Young throwing the rock. But that's why I recommend not going overly crazy for Legette. Is team's probably going to want to see what they have in Bryce Young in this lost season at this point. Now, they might have just given up to the point where they do start Andy Dalton moving forward, in which case Xavier Legette would probably be worth 25, 30% of your fab But at the risk of it being a Bryce Young-led nightmare the rest of the year, he did look okay, by the way, against the Broncos. So maybe he's going to take a step forward. So there is some upside regardless of who his quarterback is. I do think Legette's a real player. We haven't seen a ton yet. 1.2 yards per route run, 18% targets per route, middling kind of efficiency metrics here. I still believe in the guy. I still believe in Canales as a play caller. He talked about wanting to use Xavier Legette on screens, on end arounds, and we're seeing very creative usage for him. There is 2 more Panthers receivers we will talk about shortly, but ultimately I do think Legette is the best bet to emerge as the number 1 for this Panthers attack. And the last rookie I wanted to highlight here, I do think has some real upside, is Ricky Pearsall, still just 36% rostered, and maybe gets overlooked once again because the bye week is here for the 49ers. You might be able to sneak him in cheaper than some of these guys, and he might have the most upside, coming off a 77 total yard day, 4 targets, 1 rushes, really popped on those 5 opportunities, in particular that 39-yard rush, showing some safetyness, showing some speed, the stuff that we love to see here. He ran about 70% of the routes this week after leading the team the week before. Only Debo and Kittle saw more looks than Ricky Pearsall. And with the bye week now here, we often see that post-bye rookie bump. Shanny's going to be scheming some things up for Pearsall, who's definitely passing the eyeball test so far. You have the quarterback play, the play caller here. Definitely a bunch of things to check. And Debo suffering a rib injury, has the whole bye week to get healthy. Juwan Jennings could be returning as well. But I still think Ricky Pearsall definitely deserves a look if he is sitting there on your waiver wire to see how this role continues to evolve, if at all, over the rest of the year. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.